One of my earliest memories is seeing The Lion King and being absolutely traumatised when Mufasa, spoiler alert, gets killed by the stampede. That had a massive profound effect on me and showed me like how much a 2D cinema screen can make you feel so much.
We did a screening of Get Out in 2017. At the end of the film, there was this massive rapturous applause in the cinema. Again, it was just like, it made the hairs in the back of your neck stand up. That is such a special and unique thing that only exists in cinemas.
I think that human beings are supposed to go to the cinema. I think it's intrinsic to who we are. It's something about coming together, be it round a fire or in front of a cinema screen, is just fundamental to what it means to be human.
In the very earliest days of cinema, you would go to see films in really quite strange spaces, the archways under railway stations, in markets, in shops, often at fairgrounds. So it was quite a transient thing. So in the 1920s, the numbers really start to go up. There's heating, comfortable seats, you start to buy ice cream. Suddenly, like, this is quite a nice thing to go and do. People would risk life and limb to go and see films. So you would have air raid sirens going off, fire wardens kind of announcing bombs coming, and people would still sit in the cinema.
I think stories are one of the things that makes us fundamentally human. And as a neuroscientist, I've always been interested in how people experience stories. How do these stories affect people when they're in audiences? We had people in the cinema watching this film. Then we also had people in my lab at UCL watching the film by themselves. What we found is that when you're watching with an audience, there's much stronger emotional reactions than when you're watching it alone. When Jasmine and Aladdin kiss for the first time, that is the spike in electrodermal activity in the signal. And electrodermal activity is the strongest indicator of emotional engagement.
I went to a screening of Singing in the Rain, and I remember going into that screening feeling really quite miserable, and the film came on, and by halfway through I just felt absolutely elevated and so lifted out of myself. And it's that feeling and it's that moment that I always come back to.
Most of the time when you leave the cinema, I feel, changed in a way, whether it's challenged or whether I feel empowered or whether I feel kind of like energized. There's a feeling that it evokes.
You're scrolling through your phone, you've got the radio, you've got the TV, you're constantly being shouted at by different voices. And unless you can immerse yourself in that one story, you're not going to be transported in the way that cinema intends to transport you.
The lights go out, my phone's off, and I'm just so focused on what I'm watching.
We live in quite an individualistic culture, and I think whenever we can come together, whether it's a music concert, whether it's a boxing match or whatever, there's almost this ability to move as one, to think as one, to feel as one.
One of the great powers of cinema is that it's the means by which we tell each other about ourselves, and it's a means by which we develop our empathy muscle, which is crucial to becoming better people and making the world a better place.
I remember seeing Black Panther and just the energy in there. You're in a room full of strangers, but all of you are going through the exact same experience at the same time. And I think there's that kind of sacred bond there. Cinemas haven't always been totally accessible to everyone, and that's a really important thing for us to think about in terms of people's well-being. Decades ago, cinemas were not necessarily wheelchair accessible. Now, there are laws in place that mean they certainly should be.
COVID really reminded us of how much we need each other, of how much we are social animals, and of how it is different watching a film on your own, on your laptop, than going to the cinema and watching it in darkness surrounded by strangers who are miraculously experiencing the same thing as you at the same time.
I suppose that at some point they might be superseded by an even cooler way to give us a story, at 3D holograms or something. But the idea that we would stop getting together as audiences to watch a story as a group, I can't see that ever disappearing as long as there are humans.
Cinema is the place where humans go to be reminded of what it is to be human.